The Page of Swords in Tarot stands like a restless wind given human form, alert, curious, sharp eyed, and never quite still, holding his sword not with the grounded confidence of mastery, but with the eager tension of someone who has just discovered the power of thought and language, and is not yet wise enough to know when to speak, when to listen, and when silence is the higher intelligence. This card represents the beginning stage of the intellectual realm where ideas are born rapidly, questions multiply faster than answers, and the mind becomes both a tool and a battlefield. Because the page does not merely observe the world, he interrogates it, challenges it, sometimes even provokes it, often without realizing the consequences of his own mental sharpness. In imagery, the figure is usually shown standing on uneven ground, winds blowing wildly, clouds moving fast across the sky, hair enclosed, disturbed by invisible currents. This is not a calm environment, and it is intentional because the Page of Swords exists in a state of mental turbulence where thoughts are active, shifting, evolving, sometimes brilliant, sometimes chaotic. The sword he holds upright is a symbol of truth, intellect, and perception. But unlike the king or queen, his grip reveals alertness mixed with defensiveness, as if he is ready to respond to something unseen, suggesting a mind that is always scanning, always anticipating, sometimes even overthinking. Psychologically, this card speaks of a person who is highly observant, quick to notice patterns, behaviors, inconsistencies, and hidden meanings, someone who may ask uncomfortable questions, challenge authority, question traditions, and refuse to accept anything blindly. There is a youthful defiance here, not necessarily immature in a negative sense, but certainly unrefined, because the page seeks knowledge not just for wisdom, but sometimes for stimulation, curiosity, or even subtle rebellion. In practical life, this can appear as a student eager to learn but easily distracted, a person who gathers information but struggles to apply it, someone who starts conversations or debates but does not always finish them, or a communicator who speaks quickly, sometimes without considering emotional impact because their priority is truth or expression rather than harmony. In relationships, the Page of Swords can represent someone who is curious about the other person but not yet emotionally grounded, someone who observes, analyzes, questions, and sometimes tests the bond rather than fully immersing in it, which can create a sense of unpredictability. For example, a partner who constantly asks, "Why do you feel this way?" not out of deep empathy but out of intellectual curiosity, which can feel intrusive or detached if not balanced with emotional sensitivity. Professionally, this card often appears in situations involving communication, writing, research, media, journalism, or any field where questioning and information gathering are essential, but it also warns against gossip, miscommunication, or acting on half knowledge because the page has access to information but not yet the wisdom to filter or interpret it correctly. Now, coming to the shadow side, which is where this card becomes truly interesting, the Page of Swords can manifest as overthinking, anxiety, restlessness, suspicion, defensiveness, and even manipulation through words. The same sharp mind that can perceive truth can also create illusions, imagine threats where none exist, or become trapped in endless analysis without action, leading to mental exhaustion. There can be a tendency to spy, to overanalyze others' behavior, to read too much between the lines, or to jump to conclusions based on incomplete data, much like someone checking messages repeatedly, decoding every word, every pause, every tone, until reality becomes distorted by interpretation. Another shadow aspect is immaturity in communication, speaking without thinking, arguing for the sake of argument, or using words as weapons rather than tools of understanding. For instance, a person who enjoys proving others wrong more than actually learning something new, or someone who gathers information about others not to connect but to gain an upper hand in conversation or conflict. In extreme cases, this energy can become deceitful, where intelligence is used not for clarity but for cunning, creating narratives, twisting facts, or hiding behind clever language to avoid accountability. It is the trickster aspect of the mind, brilliant but ungrounded. Yet, even in its shadow, the Page of Swords carries potential because it reminds us that every sharp intellect begins as raw, restless curiosity, and that the journey from page to king is not about losing this curiosity, but about refining it, disciplining it, and aligning it with wisdom and integrity. The winds in the background are not meant to be calmed completely, but to be understood, navigated, and eventually mastered.